Hello, everybody. Welcome to your weather forecast. I am your meteorologist, Mr. G, with you on this Thursday night. I hope you guys had a wonderful week. We're going to talk about your Friday and the weekend weather forecast, talk about some things that are going on out there and how we're going to see a change in the jet stream pattern as we head into the upcoming week. So let's jump into things and get to talking about the tropics, because the tropics is going to be pretty active right now, and we have Hurricane Norma, which is a Category 3 hurricane off the Pacific coast in Mexico. So there it is going to be affecting areas like Acapulco and Mazatlan and Ensenada. We have this very large hurricane, so a very powerful hurricane off the west coast of Florida, of Mexico, on the Pacific side, and that's going to be moving inland, and that is going to be going to eventually spread rain across parts of the U.S. as we head into next week. So when we get into midweek next week, we're going to see the remnants of Hurricane Norma move into Mexico and into Texas and parts of the Central Plains. So we're going to see a lot of rain next week, but we're going to talk about more of that in just a moment. But we are going to be seeing a lot of winds with some of the impacts here with Hurricane Norma. So we got a Category 3 storm with winds of about 130 miles per hour. So we are going to be seeing flooding and damaging wind and dangerous seas. So we're going to have very rough seas with 15-foot storm surges, 10 to 15 feet there off the west coast of Mexico and near Cancun. So a very dangerous storm that we're dealing with here. A pretty serious hurricane with Hurricane Norma, and it's going to have up to 17 inches of rainfall as well. So a lot of heavy rain there near Cancun, Mexico. And we're going to also see Tropical Storm Tammy way out here near the Azores and the Lesser Antilles. And that is going to be moving toward the north and northeast eventually. And that's going to skirt by the Caribbean. So Puerto Rico going to get a glancing blow from Tropical Storm Tammy out there. And that's going to make its way toward the north-northwest. Move over the eastern areas of the Caribbean islands and just brush Puerto Rico right there before making its turn toward the north and the northeast as it heads on out. By the time we get to next Wednesday, it's going to be head out toward the open Atlantic. And we're also going to see our heavy rain associated with this storm, where we could be picking up about 4 inches of rain through parts of the eastern of the lesser, the Leeward Islands out here and the Antilles. So we're going to be seeing a lot of heavy rain and some thunderstorms with moisture from Tropical Storm Tammy. And we're also going to be seeing those winds out there. We're going to be seeing winds and heavy rain associated with our storm. Again, most of the rain is going to stay north of the island, so that's good. But anybody with any boating or cruise interest or anything like that is going to be affected by this storm. So, and as we see those winds up to 60 miles per hour, so this is a fairly weak tropical system here, but there are isolated gusts that can be as high as 75 miles per hour. So again, we have a pretty potent little tropical system out here, this tropical storm. I don't expect it to further strengthen much. It's going to slowly weaken with time, and I don't think this is going to become a hurricane, and it's not going to pose any risk to the U.S. mainland in any way whatsoever. It's only going to mainly affect shipping interests across the parts of the Caribbean islands out there. Now, back at the mainland, we're going to be talking about a pretty strong little storm moving across the northeast and the mid-Atlantic. So we have a developing nor'easter that's going to be affecting the northeastern United States as we move into your day on Friday. So we're going to be seeing rain developing. So rain is going to return here through much of the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley and parts of the Mid-South as well, we're going to see this developing nor'easter. And that is going to be moving up the northeastern seaboard on Saturday, where we're going to be seeing that heavy rainfall and northeasterly winds. So this is why this is going to be called a nor'easter, because we're going to see those 40 mile an hour and 50 mile an hour wind gusts with that northeasterly flow around this area of low pressure that's going to be moving parallel with the eastern seaboard heading off toward the northeast. So we do have our first official nor'easter of the season, and by the time we get to Sunday, we are going to see that guy moving up into northern Maine and parts of Nova Scotia as well. But on the backside of our low, we're going to see those winds switch around toward the northwest, and we're going to see those winds up to 40 miles per hour. So it's going to be really chilly and blustery out there behind our departing storm system, and we're going to see that cooler air up here across the Great Lakes and parts of the Ohio Valley, where we can see those overnight lows dip into the 30s. And there's also going to be the possibility of our first frost and freeze watches of the season across the Great Lakes and into the Northeast as well. Now, here again, as we talk about that frost and freeze potential, we're going to see that on your early through into Tuesday, Monday night, and into Tuesday morning, where we can see the frost advisories potential out there, where we're going to see those overnight lows in the upper 20s to lower 30s, especially here across the interior of New England and the Northeast. We're going to see those temperatures in the 40s right along the I-95 corridor. So New York and Washington and Philly, Boston, you won't have to worry about those colder temperatures. But if you're east, like Yonkers or toward the east of some of the big cities, the more inland areas, the inland outer suburbs, and in some of the rural areas, we will have to deal with more evaporative cooling as the skies clear, and we're going to see that cooling temperatures where we could see some frost out there early in the mornings or on Tuesday in the morning, okay? So something to look for out there across the Northeast and the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley. But across the Southwest, still going to be hot. We're still talking about triples digit heat across the desert Southwest. So Phoenix and the deserts of Southern California, southwestern Arizona, we still going to see temperatures in the 100 to 105 degree range here as we move into the remainder of this week. So we're going to see that heat continue to build in across the Southwest. And we're going to see that heat as we look at our weekend outlook here. We're going to see troughing across the Pacific Northwest. So as we look at the Northwest here, we do have a storm system that's primarily affecting British Columbia and Vancouver and points north. But we do have a southern stream to the system, a southern end to the system. So we will have a cold front that's going to move on shore off the Pacific and into the Pacific Northwest, and that will spread a few rain showers through Portland and the Seattle, Washington. We're going to see a little bit of wet weather across the northern tier up that way. Very nice and pleasant across the desert Southwest. Still very warm down in Texas, but not as bad as we've seen. Still, we're going to be cooler, but still warmer at the same time compared to those 110. We will see those temperatures in the 80s and 90s over here across the desert Southwest over the weekend. Very mild across the central and northern Rockies. Pleasant weather and a cooler across the northern tier. So Minnesota, the Dakota area, Dakotas, and Wisconsin, we will see a northwesterly flow. So that's going to make it a little bit blustery, a little bit on the cool side. Some few clouds, some clouds around, and a few isolated sprinkles to light showers. We saw some of those light showers across the Twin Cities today, but not a whole lot of rainfall, but just enough to make the roads wet It's slick out there and little make you have to grab a light jacket or umbrella for some of those showers. And that showery weather and that nor'easter, we're going to see that also into the weekend up here across the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast and New England and parts of eastern Canada, where we'll be dealing with our strong nor'easter, where we're going to see heavy rainfall and those gusty winds from the northeast, eventually switching from the northeast to the northwest as the low pressure center moves further up the east coast and into Canada and northern Maine. And we're going to see those cooler temperatures rush in, those temperatures that will bring freezing temperatures into the interior portions of the Northeast and along the St. Lawrence River Valley there. And we're going to see those cooler temperatures and those strong gusty winds. So it's going to get quite blustery behind our departing storm system. Very dry down here across the southeast this weekend and across the south. So nice weather for you folks. Maybe a few degrees cooler and a nice breeze from the northwest. So lower humidities as well with a northerly input from the signals in the weather forecast there. So it will be very pleasant across the southeastern U.S. this weekend. So enjoy that, folks. But again, one last look at the southwest. Unseasonably warm for this time of the year with that triple-digit heat across the desert southwest on Saturday. So again, very hot across the southwestern United States. And we're going to see that pattern change this weekend as we see our western ridge move into the Midwest. So we're going to see that heat extend all the way through the, well, not heat, but mild weather conditions. We're going to see those temperatures in the 50s across the northern plains in the upper Midwest, and we're going to see those temperatures warm to the 60s, 70s, and maybe some 80s down here across the south in Texas and along the Gulf Coast. But still, a very pleasant weekend across much of the Midwest and the deep south and the mid-Atlantic states. But starting to cool off here across the western U.S. So we're going to see a much cooler week as we head into your upcoming week. So Monday and Tuesday, we're going to see those temperatures drop across the Pacific Northwest. A little bit more precipitation, some rain and some snow in the mountains is going to be possible. Nice onshore flow across Southern California, going to make for more morning low clouds and fog, and clearing a little bit later in the day as we have a stronger onshore flow. So we're going to see a lot of that warmth across the desert southwest push on out of there and shift off to the east. But we're not going to see it get as warm in the Midwest as we saw across the desert. So you don't have to worry about that. But that will make the weather conditions quite enjoyable for a big chunk of the country next week, especially early into next week. Now here is that snowfall potential that we're going to be seeing across the Rockies as we head into this upcoming weekend. So we're going to see that snow up in Montana and Idaho, parts of Colorado, Wyoming, and Utah. We're going to see that snow. And we're also going to see some snow above 6,000 feet there in the Cascade Mountain range. So Mount Rainier, we can see some snow for you, and even down into Northern California, the northern end of the Lassen volcanic area, as well as the Sierra Nevada. So we're going to definitely see it cooler, wetter, and a little bit of snow across parts of the mountains out west. So that's going to be good for you guys. We'll get a little bit for something for the snow resort. Now, we talked about Hurricane Norma down in Mexico. So that tropical moisture is going to affect the U.S. as we get into about the 24th to 26th of October. We are going to see that the remnants of Hurricane Norma move into southwestern Texas, and we're going to see that moisture get pulled through the Midwest all the way up into the northern plains. So we're going to see that moisture make it as far north as Iowa and Nebraska, but that's going to be some fairly significant rainfall moving through parts of the plains and the Midwest as we head into the 24th to 26th of next week, because we have this trough in the west here, this trough is going to dig a little bit further to the south, but in turn, with that digging trough in the west, this ridge in the east is going to become more amplified. The deeper the trough, the higher the ridge in the ahead of it. So the higher the amplification of our ridge in the east. But that's going to make a nice a triangular pattern here where we're going to see that tropical moisture right along the periphery of that ridge of high pressure and along this trough. That's going to make it with the dynamics there for thunderstorms and heavy rainfall, a lot of soaking rain. We're talking about places picking up 5 inches or more of rain here through the central and southern plains and maybe into parts of the northern plains about the 24th to the 26th. That is your weather forecast. My name is Mr. G, your student meteorologist from Mississippi State University. Hope you guys are having a great week. I will be back again tomorrow night with a weather forecast update for you guys with your weekend weather forecast, and we're going to also talk about the potential for a pretty significant cool down, not this weekend, but next weekend across the Great Lakes and the upper Midwest, and where we can see it cold enough for snow across parts of the upper Midwest and the northern plains. We could even see our first few flakes in that part of the country. You didn't hear it from me. But anyway, I will see you guys all in the next video, and we will cover that stuff too in the days to come and keep you updated. Bye-bye.